Hello and welcome to another episode of You Are the Medicine podcast. I am so excited for this episode today. I'm going to be doing a solo episode diving into my story, my journey, and how I got to where I am today. I have been through quite a bit at a very young age, and I'm so grateful for every single step of my journey because I truly wouldn't be where I'm at today without all of these versions of me. And I'm so excited to just share this with everybody who's tuning in. And hopefully this leads you to feeling inspired, seen, heard. And I'm so open to any feedback, reflections that you have. Please reach out to me on Instagram, _Maya_Allen_. And I would love to just hear more about your story, your journey, and any takeaways or reflections that you might have from this episode. And I'm so excited, kind of overview of where I've been throughout my life and just these different perceived limitations and places that I felt really stuck in for a while, and how I was able to liberate myself and really return to freedom and inner peace and liberation of all that I am. And that's just continuing to evolve. I'm not at some destination of I'm healed and I'm perfect whatsoever, and I never will be. But just how I have evolved and grown through a lot of these perceived limitations and just the struggles that I've faced throughout my life. And I'm so grateful for every single step of my journey and every single version of myself that had the courage to make it through and had the courage to really alchemize this pain into so much purpose. And my story is really why I do what I do now and serving women into returning to their fullest expression and the fullness of who they are. Because for most of my life, I was disconnected from who I was. I was disconnected from my expression and was essentially just a shell of who I am. And felt like I needed to contain it, that I was too much or not enough, and really led me to playing small in a lot of areas of my life, hiding, isolating, and also just containing and not really allowing my full expression to be seen or heard. And so I'm really excited to just share this and reflect too for myself on everywhere that I have been. And if you are someone who is constantly seeking outside of yourself for fulfillment or validation and just never feel truly fulfilled on the inside, you're feeling numb and disconnected, I see you. I see you so deeply, and this is where I was for honestly a majority of my life. And it started at a really young age. I went through quite a bit pretty young, and again, every single version of me has gotten me right here, right now. And so I have really moved from this state of fear, this victim consciousness, and this limited perspective of limiting myself and really keeping myself contained in this cage, in this box, to this liberation of my full expression and returning to the love that I am and starting to be a co-creator rather than a victim. Really break out of the boxes and allow my full expression to come through. And I recognize that me just literally being who I am is my purpose here on earth. And it's allowed me to really share my authentic gifts with the world, with my clients, and in these spaces that I create, my authentic gifts and all that I am has really come from also everything that I've been through. I recognize that in my deepest pains, the alchemy of that led me to my greatest gifts. And so I'm so grateful for this journey that I've been on of the inner work and really awakening and returning to all that I am. This journey of personal development, personal growth, and just really devoting to truth and love, which takes a lot of courage. It takes this willingness to really go there and meet yourself and want change. because you truly can't change until you're willing and ready. And I've always had this deep drive and ambition to make things happen in my life. And for a while, that was kind of used in this way that wasn't necessarily getting me to where I wanted to be. I was using it in the form of eating disorders and trying to please everyone else outside of myself and constantly trying to just do all the things that I felt would lead me to love and acceptance, rather than actually tuning into my heart and using this ambitious go-getter energy towards my purpose, towards my mission, and towards fully liberating all that I am, loving and accepting all that I am. And so that's really this journey that I've been on, has been alchemizing again my deepest pains into my greatest gifts and my purpose, and really moving from this self-critic and talking down on myself and constantly being my own worst enemy at war with myself, to falling in love with myself, creating a love story between me and falling in love with life and the process and the journey and every single step of it, every single version of me, really starting to meet and love and nurture all of me, and therefore being able to meet and love and nurture everyone else around me too. Because we can only meet others at the depths that we're willing to meet ourselves. My journey has just been meeting myself and returning to truth, the truest expression of my essence, of my soul, and coming back home to my body, to safety in myself, and embodying all that I am. And for a majority of my life, I wore a mask. I was really deeply masked as to who I should be rather than just being who I am. And I constantly, again, was in this like ambitious go-getter, always doing. Like I was always creating, I was always doing, I was always like going after it, even at a very young age in sports, athletics, and in school and things like that. I was always like a hustler, like go-getter, ambitious, athletic girl who wouldn't stand down. And I was also really falling into these perfectionism tendencies where everything needed to be perfect. I was an overachiever. My worth was entirely based on how much I achieved, and super rigid in my routines, trying to control everything, have everything in my control. And ultimately, all of these patterns were me just really deep down wanting to be loved. I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted to be loved. And so I was doing everything in my power to be what I thought I needed to be in order to receive that externally. And again, I defined my worth by achievements, my body, how much I was doing. And that was where I got like all of my quick hits of dopamine and like feeling like, oh, this next thing that I achieve, maybe this will be the thing that leads me to finally feeling fulfilled. But it was this endless race, this endless cycle of never feeling fulfilled. And this started for me at a really young age, in high school and like middle school even. And I was just living entirely through my mind. I had no connection to my emotions. I was completely numbed out and just entirely living through this like analytical, judgmental, really just like self-critical mind, and entirely identified with my ego. I was so disconnected from my soul, my spirit, and again, really just confining myself into this box as to who I should be, rather than just liberating my expression and who I actually came here to be. And under all of this, I was just completely numb. I was completely numbed out, and this came through in so many different forms as to like how I kept myself in this numb cycle. It started at a really young age with eating disorders, over exercise, becoming addicted to losing weight, exercising, food control and obsession. And this just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper until I actually almost died when I was about 17. I had gotten to a really, really low weight, and I honestly was at this point where I didn't care either if I died. I really didn't see the point in living any longer. I was completely numbed out. I felt no purpose. I felt like I didn't belong in the world. And it felt like no matter what I did, it would never be enough. And this was a really, really dark time for me. And throughout the years, it was not only eating disorders, but trying to change my physical appearance in order to hopefully be accepted by the external, by everybody else. And I did this through makeup, really becoming obsessed with makeup and how I looked, always being so concerned with my physical appearance. And this again was really just me seeking that external validation of, how can I be enough? How can I be accepted? How can I be desired and wanted? This really started again at a really young age for me, around middle school. I was bullied at a really young age and started to internalize a lot of these beliefs of I'm not enough and I'm too much all at once. So I was constantly in this just identity of lack, entirely feeling like I will never be enough and I'm also too much. So suppressing my truth, suppressing my voice, suppressing my authentic expression while also hiding and numbing myself out and really dimming my light any way that I could. A lot of years of just really torturing myself and putting myself deeper in this cage that I essentially had the key to the entire time. It was really just this cycle that felt like it would never end, and I was trapped there, and it felt like it was almost out of my control. And ultimately, again, it was so rooted in me not loving and accepting myself and continuing to play victim and stay in this story of I will never be enough. And it wasn't until I really hit that rock bottom where I was laying in bed one night and I recognized like, oh my gosh, my heart isn't like it feels like it's stopping. And I really thought that I was gonna die, that I had this overwhelming just presence come over me and a voice speak through me to me, which now I believe is God, and really just pointing me in a new direction. It was just like, there is another way. There is another way. And listening into that and truly starting to see that I was the only one keeping myself in this cage, that was really where this path of awakening and remembering who I am started. And I just saw a little red bird outside the window. This journey for me started again around 17 or 18, and I really started to become curious as to how to heal, how to start to get better and start to heal from my eating disorder. And for me, it really started again with my eating disorder and really feeling just like in that cycle. And I was following a bunch of coaches and bodybuilders and all of these people in the holistic health space online for a really long time. My first coach, I was following her for a while, and she shared a lot about her story and her journey online. And I hadn't ever felt seen or heard in my experience that I had had with my eating disorder. I felt like I was the only one experiencing it, and I just felt like nobody got me. And it was actually her story, her sharing her story online and me feeling seen and heard for the first time ever, that led me to choosing to heal as well. I was so deeply inspired by her and her story, and also felt so seen and heard for the first time. That was really the pivotal catalyst for me, was recognizing that she can do it, so I can do it too. And so I started to really dive into recovery and starting to heal my relationship with food and my body, and really trying to do it on my own. But then I got to this place where I was like, I need help. Like, this is not, I can't be doing this on my own anymore. I kept relapsing and just staying stuck in these patterns. And I really, again, with that cycle of control, I really wanted to figure it out myself and wanted to have everything in my control. And so I wasn't opening myself up to help for a really long time. And it wasn't until I started to open myself up to help and hiring her as my first coach that I really started to make change. And hiring my first coach, she was a fitness and nutrition coach. That's what cracked me open to the coaching space and really wanting to become a coach myself and seeing that that was even possible. I didn't even know it was possible to have your own business, be an entrepreneur, and be able to like travel the world and like serve people with your story and your mission. I never knew that was possible until hiring my first coach and seeing her and how she really changed my life. And so that was really the start of me starting to see like, whoa, I want to be a coach. I want to help people with this story and this all of these experiences that I've been through. And I started to see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel for the first time ever when I started to work with my first coach. And she really helped me with my relationship with food and my body, and truly started to teach me like how to nourish myself and eat healthy. And after that, I started to dive into certification programs and study holistic health, nutrition, get my personal training certification, and really was just all in on, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to help women. I'm no longer going to live in this story of pain. I'm going to alchemize this into my purpose. And so that same ambitious energy that I had always had started to go from pouring it all into essentially hurting myself to my purpose and my passions and being the best version of myself. And that really was where all of this journey that I've been on for the last few years started, was that moment when I started to open myself up and break out of this box, break out of this prison that I had essentially put myself in, and choose to grow and choose to change and choose to be happy again. And so through studying holistic health and working with my coach and all of these things, my mind really started to expand, and I really started to go through this awakening, the start of my spiritual awakening. I really started to learn and build awareness around like what my current patterns were within, nutrition and fitness and the relationship with food and my body that I had had, and really start to break those patterns and build this healthy relationship with food and my body. And the more that I created this healthy relationship, the more I was like, okay, I'm going all in on helping other women with this as well. And so I actually started to coach people throughout this process and getting my certifications and all of that. And at the time, I was also cleaning houses. I really started to dive into entrepreneurship, and by the grace of God, was going to go to college and not really know what I was going to do at college, because like everything that I wanted to do, I didn't necessarily need a degree for. And so on my graduation night of high school, I actually ran into a girl that I had known, and she randomly and was like, she was basically like, yeah, I dropped out of college and became a holistic health coach and like have my own business now. And I was like, whoa, like that's literally what I want to do too. And so that actually changed the trajectory of my path in my life. And she shared her school with me, and that's how I ended up going to the first certification school that I went to, that really changed my perspective and opened me up in these new ways to holistic healing, holistic health, and diving deep into that path. And so I started to coach clients pretty soon throughout that program. And I was also cleaning houses. I always had my own businesses. And as soon as I graduated high school, I started to, again, clean houses, be a personal assistant for people. I really started to learn the ropes and like build my confidence when it came to being an entrepreneur and having my own business. And that really, I feel laid the foundation for me to just have this like trust in myself, also in my coaching business. And I was really ashamed for a while of being a house cleaner and a personal assistant. And when deep down I knew it was like, oh, like I'm just here to be a coach. Like I knew I was supposed to help people on such a deep level. But that was just a part of the journey, you know? And it really taught me so much about entrepreneurship. And yeah, I started to travel the world. Really traveling opened me up in this entire new way because, again, for so long, I was in such a rigid, controlled, everything needed to be perfect type of way of being. And so traveling really opened me up to this flow and remembering what play and experiencing life fully and starting to expand my mind. Traveling really did that for me. So many synchronicities had played out throughout the year, that I was really like, I'm going in on this coaching business. So many, me making that decision and me claiming what I wanted to do and create, it truly started to be this co-creation with God. And this is really where my spiritual awakening started. And I started to see all of these synchronicities playing out, all of these people coming into my life, exactly what I needed at the perfect time, just the perfect opportunities. And yeah, I actually was going to work for this gym here in Austin. She was an entrepreneur and I was actually going to be her personal assistant. And then we started talking and she was like, whoa, like you're wanting to be a coach and a personal trainer. Like I'd love for you to be like an intern at my gym and like learn from me and also like help contribute to the gym and like be a coach there. And I was like, okay, cool. And basically she ended up being just like a major mentor for me and showing me what was possible and like having her own business. And it was just exactly what I needed at the time, exactly what I needed to learn, and starting to work with clients in person, building my knowledge and just confidence there. And then COVID hit and the gym shut down. And it forced me into my own business full force. And so I really started to show up on social media. And in that process of me showing up on social media, starting to make content and talk to new people, so much came up for me. So much came up for me. The imposter syndrome, all of my fears and doubts and everything. I recognized that business and coaching and helping others, it's just a direct mirror for all of the parts of myself I didn't want to look at. And at this point in my journey, I'd been really deep into, the nutrition and fitness and all of this when it came to that and that knowledge. But when it came to the inner work and mindset work, having emotional intelligence and really being connected to myself and my body, I was still very disconnected. And I actually, for a while, was binge eating and still using laxatives and kind of in this binge purge cycle because I was numbing out my emotions through food, overeating, and still having these patterns that even though I was healed from anorexia and bulimia to the extreme, I still had these underlying patterns, and like the root of my eating disorder was still very much so intact. And so I had a lot of these patterns in this time of control and perfectionism and these cycles of numbing myself out because I hadn't really gotten to the actual root of why I had my eating disorder in the first place. And so these patterns, like even though they didn't look the same, they were still showing up in these other ways. And I started to overwork, and that became my new addiction. It was like overworking and making money. And again, it was that source of external validation that I was seeking. And becoming a personal trainer and fitness coach actually led me to becoming even more obsessed with my body in a new way. But because it wasn't as extreme as what I had experienced before, I didn't see it as a problem. And so I was secretly struggling with this for at least a year. And I was like silent about it. I didn't tell anybody. I was so ashamed because I was trying to be this coach and really starting to step into this new identity because I had so much knowledge. I had so much wisdom. I'd already been through so much myself, but I didn't feel like I was walking the walk. And deep down, it felt like I was an imposter. And I was serving these women, and I started to actually get in-person clients here in Austin and train out of my apartment gym. And I was a personal trainer for about 2 years, and loved it. It was incredible and really gave me so much confidence. I felt so lit up by it. I loved serving my clients, and I got to a point where I was working like 60 hours a week, and I was in the gym like 24/7. I was making a lot of money, but I was so burnt out and so disconnected from myself. And I was using work and making money as, again, a numbing and coping mechanism to essentially escape myself and my inner world. And I didn't know at the time, because it felt like, oh, like everything's finally working. Like I'm a coach, I'm a personal trainer, and I have all these clients and I'm making money, and everything, all of my worth was still coming from outside of myself. Because deep down, when I would sit with myself, I couldn't sit still. I felt so dysregulated. I felt so disconnected from myself. I felt so afraid to look inwards that anytime I would be alone, I would binge eat, and I wouldn't be able to sit with what was present within me. And this showed up also in my relationship that I was in at the time, and things started to really, like, on the outside look the way that I always wanted them to. Like I was super fit, and I felt really like healthy, like in terms of just like my body from where it had been to where it was. But internally, I was really struggling. And I was traveling the world. I was making money. I was in a good relationship. Everything on the outside was like exactly what I wanted on paper. But internally, I felt so disconnected from myself. And then I started to just go deeper into my business, and I hired a business mentor, and the business mentor helped me transition my business online. And that's what I had done with that. And so that was really valuable, but it wasn't until I actually started to invest in myself and my own personal growth and inner journey, my inner work, that I actually started to see progress in my business and start to actually feel aligned and internally start to make these shifts and actually start to feel the way I wanted to feel. Because I was searching outside of myself this whole time for my peace, for my fulfillment. And it was leading me to not only all of this emotional turmoil where I was binge eating and distracting myself and numbing myself out and burning myself out through my business, but then eventually I got to this point where I was having all these health issues. My skin was breaking out like crazy. I had constant just cystic acne all over my cheeks, started to feel super insecure. My gut health became wrecked. My hormones were wrecked. I didn't have a period for about 3 years. I was completely disconnected from my body, my intuition, my emotions, and eventually I scaled my business to 20 to 30K months consistently, had an online business, and it became passive even. Most of the work within my business was passive. I had a team, but I felt so disconnected, dysregulated, unhappy, and unfulfilled from within. Even though on paper I had made it from a society standpoint of making all the money, being able to travel the world, having the online business that allows me to work from wherever, and I was fit, and I had the relationship, I had the guy but on the inside, I was empty and I had nothing. And it wasn't until I realized that if I don't have me, I have nothing. And if I don't have God, I have nothing. That started my true just spiritual awakening, where everything I once knew started to shatter. My old belief systems, the way that I used to see like what is success, what is happiness, what is joy, all of that started to shatter because I realized nothing outside of me will ever fulfill me. And I started to get to this breaking point where it's like, I tried everything. I tried to make the money, to be as fit as possible, to look the part, to have the things, to escape through traveling and working, and none of it was working. No matter how much validation I got outside of myself, nothing was working. And the way I was living just wasn't sustainable. Life really forced me to surrender at this point. And I really started to open myself up to the inner work, mindset work, personal development, and really dive inwards for the first time ever. I started to read books. I started to dive into Joe Dispenza. I started to read Michael Singer and Gabby Bernstein and all these books that just really inspired me and like really opened my mind to like, whoa, like there's so much more than just like nutrition and fitness when it comes to your well-being. And it started to open me up to the mind and psychology and really starting to understand on a deeper level that there's so much more. There's so much more. And it wasn't until I started to hire mentors and really work on this one-on-one with these mentors that it expanded me even more and really took me deeper into myself. And I'd also had some really profound plant medicine journeys, and these different modalities really opened me up to so much more of myself. And I would say my first personal development and mindset mentor was really what opened me up to this whole world of diving inwards and starting to really heal and face my trauma and start to meet myself and feel my emotions and connect back to my body and recognize again that I was the one putting myself in this cage, and really starting to just build my awareness, my self-awareness, and become conscious of the unconscious. 2022 is the year that I really went through my true spiritual awakening and started to awaken to so much more than everything I had known for so long, and really started to make my unconscious conscious and see from this higher perspective and start to connect to something greater than myself and really become curious about God, my spirituality, my faith, and really wanting to dive into like, who am I? Like, who am I without money and looking a certain way and being something that I'm not? I became so curious and had this deep desire to know myself again and feel fulfilled from the inside out. And it actually wasn't until I sat with ayahuasca back in 2022 that it really opened me up to recognizing that I am the medicine. I'm the medicine that I have been searching for my entire life. And it's really funny because I went and sat with the medicine to realize that I was the medicine. And this awakening really led me down this path of starting to study somatics and hiring more mentors that would help me just go deeper into myself and really go through this process of alchemy. And I ended up through this process and through this journey and the integration of my own experience with all of this inner work, then started to transition my business. And I actually let go of my fitness business and of my nutrition fitness business. I just was not feeling aligned with it anymore. I knew that I was here to help serve women on just this inner level, this deeper inner level. And I started to see all of the patterns that, again, I was still holding on to, even though I was healed from my eating disorder. All of those underlying patterns and the stories that I kept intact were still there. And so I started to truly heal on this somatic level, not only on the mind level, but really start to heal on a somatic level. And this cracked me open to nervous system regulation and really starting to dive into my inner world and no longer run from it. And I realized again that I am the medicine. And if I don't have me, I have nothing. And I started to really reclaim my power that I had been giving away my entire life outside of myself, and truly reclaim my peace and my worthiness from within. My self-worth was no longer defined by how much money I had, what I looked like, how much validation I was getting from everybody else. It started to become about like, who the fuck am I? And recognizing that that's enough. That's enough in itself. And recognizing that me being my most authentic self, I'm going to be sharing my gifts with the world, essentially being this walking permission slip for the liberation of everybody else through my liberation. And I started to become truly devoted to truth and my liberation and my authentic expression. And through that, my ability to serve others came from me literally just being more of who I am. And because when we are living in our authentic path and in authentic embodiment, our gifts are naturally being shared from our heart. And in that, our ability to serve is coming from this heart-led place rather than what do I need to do in order to make money? What do I need to do in order to, like, what's just going to work, right? We can truly serve in the way that God created us to, and truly start to alchemize our deepest pains again into our purpose. And that's exactly what this process has been for me, is alchemizing and starting to face these pains that I had been running from my entire life, and starting to actually see them as portals and gateways deeper into myself and my liberation, my freedom, but also into my purpose, my mission, my ability to serve others, because it was in that pain that I found my greatest gifts and the alchemization of that. And so that's why throughout this process, I've learned that it's essential as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide, as a facilitator of any kind to do this inner work. Because in order to really connect to your gifts, to your mission, to what you're here, what God created you to serve in this lifetime, we have to look at these parts of ourselves and look at our story and everything we've been through, so that not only we can get out of our own way and serve from our heart, but so we can connect with these God-given gifts that our story and every single version of us up to this point has allowed for us to embody and have. Because otherwise, again, our business is a mirror for all of these parts that we don't want to look at, all of these versions of ourselves that we don't want to face. It all started to just come up in my business and forced me to look right at it. And so the entrepreneurship journey and helping others has actually been the greatest journey for me, also of personal development and healing and growth. And it's been just this massive mirror for me to look deeper into myself. And through this awakening and embodiment journey that I really started to just devote myself to, I started to reconnect with safety in my body again, my intuition, my ability to trust God and really lean into my faith, which then led me into this natural feminine embodiment. And honestly, there's so much noise in the feminine embodiment space. And it's like the feminine embodiment doesn't just come from like claiming these quote unquote feminine things that look feminine. It comes from you unleashing and embodying your true essence, which comes from letting go of what you're not any longer. And it's this natural unfolding of your essence as a woman. We have more of that natural feminine essence, but that only comes through the alchemy and the releasing of what you're not any longer. These shackles in this cage that it can be so easy to put ourselves in. This process isn't just starting to do the feminine things, it's alchemy and really starting to meet these parts of yourself and nurture and love these parts of yourself. And that's where the feminine starts to come online and really be embodied, is through this alchemy and this liberation and acceptance and love of all that you are. Because that's when your authentic essence truly starts to flow through you, rather than, again, just putting ourselves in another box of who we should be, because this is what feminine is, right? And so I really started to awaken to my natural feminine essence and my natural essence as a whole. I had had so much religious trauma and programming, which I'll totally make a whole other podcast on as well. But really starting to reprogram my relationship with God and starting to truly create this inner relationship with God and this trust in my intuition and have this faith that was so individual to me, my own personal relationship, rather than listening to what everybody else is doing and how it works for everybody else. And this faith in God really led me into this deeper surrender and trust. And I started to loosen my grip on life. I started to let go of this need of excessive control and fear, and really starting to move from this consciousness of fear to love, returning to my natural essence of love, because that is how God created us. We are created by love like itself. We're created in the image of God. And so this process has been returning to my natural essence. It hasn't been obtaining something that I'm not or becoming something that I'm not. It's actually just letting my natural essence start to flow through me and accepting all that I am. I always say that the healing journey isn't a journey of fixing yourself or obtaining something that you're not. It's an acceptance journey. It's a liberation journey. It's allowing your fullest expression to come through, starting to unshackle her and let her out of the cage and return to all that you actually are, which is love. And so that's been this journey for me. And this really came again from starting to dive into myself and no longer run from myself. Really starting to see that I was the only one keeping me in this cage, and I had the keys to the cage this entire time. Starting to break myself free and move from this victim energy, this victim consciousness, to co-creating with God, co-creating in life, and starting to see that, again, I had the key right here. And all it takes is starting to rewire the subconscious, rewire my beliefs, and start to shift my identity back into truth and start to identify with the truth rather than all of these illusions that I had been stuck in my entire life of fear. And that shifting my identity on a mind level, but also healing on a somatic level, really starting to come into nervous system regulation and create safety in my body. And this really awakened in me through somatic healing and working with mentors and starting to do somatic breath work, which then led me to studying somatics and getting certifications in somatics and then integrating that into my practice as well. Somatics have really allowed me to come back into coherence within my mind, body, and spirit and feel in true alignment, because when your nervous system is regulated, you move in the world freely, is how I see it. Whereas when our nervous system is dysregulated and we have all of this stored, stuck energy from these traumatic experiences we go through and holding on to these stories, this old energy, it's containing our expression and it's keeping us in this mode of protection, keeping us in this contracted state to where we're not able to fully, freely move in the world that in the way that we really came here to. And so nervous system regulation for me has really opened me back up to my full expression and how I move in the world. I'm no longer trying to just protect myself all the time. I live from this place of love. It's really allowed me to embody the love that I am and move in the world with this open heart and move freely within my expression. This mind, heart, body coherence allows us to be in alignment energetically as well and really start to live in integrity with who we are rather than having this incongruency within our thoughts and our body and what our soul is really calling us into. Instead, we can come back into coherence and really be in alignment within our thoughts, within how we feel in our body and our embodiment, and really start to live from that place of our spirit, our heart, our soul, and letting that guide us. And so that's why this work is so essential, because not only just as a human in general, but especially as somebody who wants to serve people in a deeper capacity, your ability to serve comes from your inner alignment and how well, again, you're willing to take care of yourself and meet yourself, because you're only going to be able to take care and meet others at the depths that you do yourself. And so that's why this work has been so essential for me, not only just as a human in this world, but specifically when it comes to my mission and serving others. I believe that awakening starts when we start to unravel who we thought we should be and all of these programs that we thought were the truth for so long, really starting to unravel and build this self-awareness. And so for me, it really started with the awareness piece and really becoming aware of these current programs, identities, beliefs that I had on a mind level that were then creating my identity and keeping me contained in this box. And from then, I moved more into the alchemy of that, the alchemy of these old stories, starting to rewrite the stories through somatic work, through subconscious reprogramming. And this really came from me investing in myself, working with one-on-one mentors, joining group programs, joining masterminds, attending retreats. It was an uncomfortable process and it took a lot of courage, but I have no regrets on any investment that I have made in myself. And it's reflected into my business in tenfold. My ability to attract ideal clients and abundance and opportunities and all of this came from my inner alignment within myself. And my ability to serve others didn't just come from learning all the things and having the certifications and buying the courses. It came from me walking the walk and embodying all that I came here to be and embodying my mission. Because when we're living out of integrity, we're going to feel like an imposter. We're not going to want to show up as our full self and serve our mission from our heart. We're going to feel like an imposter. And in order to be in integrity, again, we have to be in alignment energetically. And it really starts again with this inner work. It's essential for success. It's essential for your ability to serve others. And it's essential for you to just feel the way you actually want to feel. Otherwise, we're going to be constantly searching outside of us for something to finally make us feel better, whether that's addictions, coping mechanisms, searching outside of ourselves for validation in all forms, numbing mechanisms. These patterns are all just rooted in this cycle of lack from within. And to reclaim your inner abundance is what's going to lead you to your salvation of this feeling of being in this cage that I never will get out of, in this cycle of it will never be enough. I will never be enough. In order to break out of that cage, you have to recognize that you're the one keeping you there. And start to truly make these changes and go to these places that you've maybe been afraid to, that there's a lot of fear there. But on the other side of that fear is love, is your liberation. On the other side of those feelings you don't want to feel and that maybe you're running from or numbing is your happiness, is your joy, is your liberation. But until we actually face ourselves and meet ourselves, we will never actually feel like ourselves. We will never actually feel fulfilled. And we will constantly be searching outside of ourselves for something to remind us of who we are. But it isn't until we actually remember who we are by facing ourselves and going inwards and being in the light of our essence and starting to accept and love and meet all the versions of us that literally just want our love, that we can truly set ourselves free and remember who we are and remember that we are the medicine. And this is exactly why my business is You Are the Medicine, and this podcast is You Are the Medicine, because this has truly become my mission, is to remind and reflect my own story and experiences and be this reminder that everything you have is within you. And you are the medicine you've been seeking for. It is all within you. And so my mission is really to create these safe spaces for others to feel seen and heard and liberated and given full permission to be the fullness of who they are and remember all that they are, reclaiming their power from within. This journey of moving from this hyper wounded masculine control, fear state of being into my feminine flow and magnetism and surrender and trust and just this liberation that I can't even put into words. It has been really starting to heal on this deep level and meet these younger versions of myself that learned that these old ways of being were what kept me safe. And I really had to start to learn to feel again and meet and give all of these versions of myself permission to feel and really feel those feelings that I didn't want to feel. But that's really the beauty of somatic healing and specifically hiring mentors and working with practitioners, is you have this safe space and permission to feel. Because to be honest, in our society and in our culture, like, it's the opposite. We're not given permission to feel. We're given all of the reasons to numb ourselves and told to keep it all together and hold it all together, and that emotions aren't safe, right? And so having these safe spaces to actually give yourself permission to feel is so liberating. And giving yourself permission to cry, to dance, to be sensual, to embrace your sexuality and just express yourself and surrender. All of this is really, it's you giving yourself permission, and you can have these activators in your life who really reflect these deeper parts of you. And I know that for me, like, I typically know I need to work with someone as my mentor or really dive into something that they're offering, whether that's a retreat, when they trigger me, because I know that triggers are portals into my expansion. And all the trigger is them reflecting a part of me that I'm afraid to embrace. And all of the mentors and coaches and facilitators that I've invested in triggered me initially. It was like, ooh, like she has this liberated part of the expression that I know I have, but I'm just afraid to embody. And it's so funny because I actually have so many clients tell me the same thing when we get started. It's like, you trigger me. That's usually a telltale sign. Triggers are portals into our expansion and into our growth if we allow them to be. And all of this has led me into the work that I do now with my clients, which is making this inner work a fun love story between you and you. And I just want to share it with everyone. The liberation of your full expression, giving you this safe space and permission to be all of you. And the framework that I really take my clients through and the retreats that I facilitate is this process of awareness, alchemization, and embodiment. And it's this journey that I've been on myself, and really what's allowed me to get to where I am today and continue to integrate throughout my journey. Because again, I'm walking the walk with all my clients, with all the people that I serve. I'm here walking the walk with everybody that I serve. I'm not above, I'm not ahead, I'm not at this destination. I'm truly here with my clients walking this walk. I'm here to also point the way and show and share these tools and these things that have served me herself. As I see investing in ourselves as an accelerator for the process. It's like we can definitely go fast by ourselves, but we're going to go so much further when we ask for support and have that support. And that's what I've experienced in my own journey, was all the times that I'm just going to do it myself. I'll figure it out. I'll read all the books. I'll buy the courses. Like, I'll be good. Yes. And I went so much further when I invested in myself, when I hired the coach, when I hired the mentor that I was afraid to hire. And I went all in when I went to the retreats. And these are just activations and portals for you to go so much further, because I see it as God places these people in our life because they've also been where we've been and can be these mirrors and guides and just reflectors of these codes that we're needing in the meantime, in this period of time that we're at. And so they can give us the tools and the reflection. And also, again, that being seen and heard and held takes us so much further and can be that true activation into that next evolvement, that next level of growth in our journey. And so my mission is to help women go from burnout to embodiment, and from fear to faith and love, returning to the fullness of their essence so that they can truly feel fulfilled on that inner level and reclaim their worth from within, but also be able to serve their mission in a deeper way from their true gifts and their heart, and walk the walk in what they're serving and truly be the walking embodiment of their mission, so they can serve their clients on such a deep level and truly meet their clients in the way that they've met themselves. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in today. I'm so grateful to share my journey, share my story. And if you have any questions for me or resonated with this story, I would love for you to shoot me a message, and I'd love to just connect. I also offer a free alignment call where I take you through my awareness, alchemization, and embodiment process. And so if you're interested in this and you feel this is something you're feeling called to right now, please feel free to shoot me a message again on Instagram _Maya_Allen_. And I will be hosting 4 retreats yearly, and I also offer one-on-one coaching. And so feel free to shoot me a DM if you're feeling just a pull to going deeper in yourself and really diving into this journey of self-love and healing and inner work so that you can be all that you came here to be, serve your mission, feel safe in your body, and just love life from the inside out and reclaim all that you are. Feel free to share this episode as well with anybody you feel would resonate or that needs to hear it. And I'm here for any support you might need.